Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to this session. I welcome all the expert panel speakers also. The theme of this session is frameworks and strategies on coastal disaster risk resilience, disaster risk reduction, and resilience. Just to give you a bit of context in which the discussions will follow. You are all aware that India has a long coastline, totaling to more than 7,500 kilometers, approximately 5,000 kilometers on the mainland, and the remaining being accounted for by the two island groups, Andaman and Nicobar and the Lakshadweep. Now we have seen rapid urbanization of the coastal region, and today our coastal region is densely populated, and it's a hub of economic activities, whether it is agriculture, aquaculture, tourism, industry, or trade. Indian coastal region is home to nearly 300 million plus people who are living within 50 kilometers of the coastline and located in 130 towns, 77 cities, and in 84 coastal districts. Our coastal region is also extremely important from the perspective of international trade, in so much as it accounts for nearly 90% of international trade by volume and 70% by value. However, our region is also extremely vulnerable to the to the sea level rise, storm surge, and coastal erosion. The extent of vulnerability can be gauged from the fact that we have been witnessing, massive recurring disasters, which has been causing, massive economic losses to us, and the losses are estimated to be in excess of, thousands of crore. Just to give an example, Kerala floods 2018 accounted for more than 30,000 crore losses. And Foni cyclone 2019, the losses are estimated to be in excess of 50,000 crore. So it is very much imperative that DRR initiatives are taken, and it has to be, as per the customized, Sendai framework and the strategies. Since, one strategy or one resilience measure would not, sort of suit all the regions. Coming to the strategies for coastal risk reduction, the experts have given a classification. The generic classification falls in three categories: manage retreat, accommodation, and protect strategies are the three categories of classification of the coastal risk reduction strategy. Managed retreat focuses on relocation of the existing structures. The accommodation strategy, focuses on alteration, retrofitting, adaptation of existing structure and infrastructure. And the protect strategy focuses on engineered solutions, actually, for defending the area against rising sea, storms, and other phenomena. Flowing out of these, broad three categories of strategies, there are, resilience measures which also fit broadly in three categories: the nature-based resilience measures, the structural resilience measures, and the non-structural resilience measures. The nature-based resilience measures will include the beaches, sand dunes, salt marsh, sea green beds, oyster reef, etc. The structural resilience measures would include levees or embankments, seawall, barrier islands, land restoration and creation, land creation, that has the impact of reducing the coastal flooding effects. Then another set of measures are revetment, groins, backwater, and that has the impact of reducing the coastal erosion. The non-structural resilience measures would typically include the floodplain management, the flood proofing and impact reduction, flood, cyclone, tsunami preparedness, and warning dissemination. Since one strategy, or for that matter, one measure, resilience measure, would not provide solution for every coastal area, the need of the hour is for customized area-specific matrix of framework, strategy, and resilience measures. And in sync with that, investments for resilience have to be made for bringing about the overall coastal resilience of our coastal regions. So with these few opening remarks, I would now request the expert speakers to make their presentation. Request Professor Santosh Kumar. First would be Professor Santosh Kumar from NIDM.
Chair Shri Pradeep Kumar ji, Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, Executive Director of NIDM, and all the distinguished chair, co-chair, and distinguished delegates who are here. I had given this opportunity to chair one of the sessions, which was related to governance. And the chair has highlighted very nicely in terms of that how it has been discussed, the framework, that one size fit to all probably will not work. And India, where the 30 million people are residing in the coastal area, it has to be seen differently. So in those lines, this discussion went on. And we had this with us with Mr. P.P. Srivastava also, and Mr. Singh, who was representing Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration. So this is a kind of a joint presentation from, with the permission of Sri P.P. Srivastava ji. First thing which came out that we need to look at this whole problem of coastal risk is in a holistic view. So we were discussing that Ministry of Earth Science has also established a committee to looking the coastal process. And NIDM is also part of it, that we are the member. And we wanted to show this, that how it has happened in one district. So one small film for, with the permission of the chair, 2 minutes, and then I will narrate the points which have been narrated. So I would request to do this. So this is the holistic view that how we are taking it in the coastal, and this is made on Chennai, and we are working on the Mumbai now. So NIDM is developing together with the institute, which is the whole soul in charge. Mr. Jaina was chairing here. So in this we are talking about that how it is very holistic.
Catastrophic floods are becoming an annual phenomenon. Subsequent to the 2015 Chennai floods, the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India and the Ministry of Earth Sciences initiated the Coastal Flood Warning System for Chennai. Seaflows Chennai has been developed as a web GIS-based decision support system integrating data and outputs derived from weather forecast models, hydrologic models, hydraulic models, and hydrodynamic models. The regional weather forecasting models from NCMRWF and IMD form part of the operational Seaflows Chennai. Hydrologic models are used to transform rainfall into runoffs and provide inflow inputs into the river systems. Hydraulic models solve equations of fluid motion to replicate the movement of water and assess flooding in the study area. The hydrodynamic models are used to calculate the tide and storm surge impacts into the model domain. Decision support system is the heart of the Seaflows that will aid in taking appropriate decisions based on queries related to ward-wise inundations, severely affected locations, flood depth, movement, mobilization of resources and shelters. A Red Atlas Action Plan map has been developed to serve as a ready reckoner during flood mitigation operations. Seaflows Chennai will be integrated with TN Smart, which is the disaster management portal of the Tamil Nadu state government. Similar systems will now be replicated for other coastal cities, including Mumbai. Seaflows Chennai is an excellent example of utilization of science and technology for building a disaster-resilient India.
So So thank you. What we wanted to share here, that how one of the recommendations were that different institutions who are working in the sector should come together. So this was a classic example that how NIDM and the scientific institution and Ministry of Earth Science got together and now working. The second thing which came up as a kind of we need to look at a specific hazard and a specific kind of a people. People are not homogeneous. We need to identify the differential vulnerability, and accordingly that the entire governance system for disaster risk management should be drafted. Any of the projects and the programs which is proposed to be taken in the coastal area that need to look into the different composition of the society, differential need, and the differential geographical area. Like that east coast is much more vulnerable than the west coast. So that was the idea in terms of taking this holistic differential hazard and differential vulnerability. Last mile connectivity was emphasized, that how that NCRMP project of the NDMA is there, and now we are thinking of how to take it to the last mile in terms of dissemination. This suggestion also came from the Tamil Nadu itself, that how we are taking so they talked about this, each and every village has people working as a disaster management volunteers, and they are talking about that disaster governance should not get confined only up to the district level, it should go below the districts as well. And strengthening the community process, that was the, in terms of the suggestion which came. The other suggestion came in terms of that when we are talking about DRR, we should also talk about livestock and livelihood together. The three compositions that entire DRR governance framework should be focusing on these all together, which probably for the information to the House, that NDMA is working on the guidelines of the livestock already released. Planning, which we talk about in terms of national level, state level, and the district level, also we need to relook that how those plans which have been made is actually working at the districts, at the state, and at the national level or not. Many of the programs, the suggestions came that plan has been made, but plan is not getting executed, or it has become very old, so that need to be integrated and part and parcel of the governance process of disaster risk management. The other point which came as a kind of we should not be working in the silos in terms of that Ministry of Environment and Forest, Coastal Department, and DRR Department, Development Department are working not in together, but in silos. Need to break those silos. Just these kind of recommendations coming repeatedly in most of the workshops. The idea as to how to look at and what are the actions planned which we can make for taking it further. Also, that's that one point was highlighted by Ministry of Environment and Forest, that they have the coastal authority, but how this coastal authority often meeting with the disaster management authorities of the state. That some kind of linkages have to be brought in, and that coastal zone regulations and disaster management act should gel together as a part of the governance. And if any policy related to forest and environment, and any policy related to coastal zone regulations, and any policy related to disaster management should also converge at some point where we can take this kind of making governance robust at the local level. The other point which came as in terms of adaptation, DRR, and capacity building financings, that how that adaptation financing can get gel with the disaster risk management financing. And those financing should look for the many alternatives which are available, new tools to be examined and to brought into the planning process of the disaster risk management. So governance of financing is also important ex ante rather than ex post facto. So that was another important thing came up. And for widely educating people, it was discussed that any individual or any engagement of the state government or national government will not take us to the risk reduction. So that has to go to the each and every individual, and that for there, the role of community radio is very, very important, and how that community radio can be engaged in the governance of DRR in terms of informing people about the risks of the total area, so that people can also take informed decision other than the governance who are taking the decisions. So these were the key findings in the recommendations made by the group, and Anybody would like to add with the permission of the chair at the end, maybe, if I have missed out any point, they can add on. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Santosh Kumar. Large number of issues have been brought out, and the main issue that has come out is that one size fits all will not work. And that is very true for every area, every geographical region, every site, especially in a coastal area, is different from other and needs to be tackled accordingly. And all other issues that were brought out by this particular group have been noted and will be processed further. Now I'll request Dr. B.K. Jaina, who's from National Institute of Ocean Technology. He will talk about what their group discussed regarding science and technology for coastal DRR&R.
So, honorable dignitary on the dais, of the dais.
आवाज नहीं आ रही.
Yeah. Honorable dignitary on the dais, and respected scientists and various participants along the Indian coastal district and other states. We were discussed about that frameworks for strategies for coastal disaster risk reduction and its resilience. How science and technology can be fit into this. So similar project, as I have a little briefed, just I am thankful to this Dr. Pradeep Kumar IS, who has also been part of this workshop which we organized in NIOT, as well as that Major General Manoj Kumar. So we got a very good support from that NIDM. This is just in a brief. What is required is to develop a evidence-based guidance on future investment. That's what we are discussing. I think a lot of discussion in this regard only we are doing now. So similar works we are doing for along east coast of India, comparing Bay of Bengal, like including India and Bangladesh. So that what we are doing is now we have classified, as we discussed, the different, even though Bay of Bengal have a various state of coastlines, like having port and harbor, then muddy coast and estuaries and all. So a lot of engineering information there for site specific, like seawall, groin and breakwaters, so many things. So we have classified. We have also involved all the stakeholders who can give that input when it is started, why it is started, how it is failure, all these things we have analyzed. Then our second phase is look forward. So what we are going to do. So now we understood that how these interventions are working and when it is placed, how whether it is impact on the coast or not, what is design for, whether success or fail. So now we are going to see also the future intervention, anything is there with all the stakeholders. So that in this regard, we have also that I thanks to my co-chair, Professor Bhaskar, as well as Dr. G. Suresh from different organizations. And also Professor Bhaskar has suggested that climate change should be also one of the key factor to include in the coastal hazard mitigation measures. So including like storm surge, then coastal erosion, ecosystem disturbance and water quality. This is also as a major parameter we have to look into that when we are talking about coastal risk reductions. Similarly, G. Suresh from our MOES NCS, he is expert in that earthquake monitoring and dissemination facility. So most of the people has told that last mile information should be proper, whether it is SMS or mail or whatever it is. But when you go to interior area, we cannot work this fax, email and all. So like SMS or some other way of dissemination should be in place where that is up to that end of the coastline, people can be informed very well. So coming to this participatory involvement, so first, so many people have given so many advice. I have mentioned here only 4 to 5 points. To just later on we can involve, we can inform also the department for various other issues. First is that community involvements. So like now, like ham radio and other that dissemination facilities are available. So we have to involve them, we have to train them, and also we have to educate. So little bit of science. So if we are telling, okay, you evacuate when tsunami comes or storm surge comes, but how far they will go, why they should go, all these things we have to be little bit informed by distributing the brochure or periodically conducting the workshop or training, and also the media to be informed and educated properly to disseminate, because everybody now seeing that YouTube and that mobile phones and TV, so that sometimes the wrong information create a havoc. So media people also to be informed properly and educated properly to disseminate the proper information to the local community. So for that, some inquiries is now doing for tsunami preparedness. Then IMD is doing for cyclone and storm surge preparedness. So similarly, all the stakeholders should go up to even school and college level of the local coastal villages and give the proper information to disseminate to the public. Similarly, some discussions were there for the cyclone shelter, how it is functioning and all. We have discussed, then capacity and all that has been discussed. Then monitoring the coastal infrastructure. What I have also told that we have done already that work is under progress, and there are some norms to be, guidelines should be brought out. And some people are asking about CRZ implementation rule and central coordination agency, because some people are intervening that in the coast, PWD is there, irrigation is there, so many other peoples are involved. So to monitor what they are doing and what is their future plan, should be a central agency should be involved. Without that, then what is going on, we are not able to know properly. So for that, some mechanism should be in place. And also some of the young people were asking about data, oceanography data, how to get in that. And I would like to inform you that now, as per the National Data Dissemination Policy, that all data are available in that INCOIS websites. You can go there, all the information like tide, currents, waves, high wave alerts, tsunami, earthquake. So there are so many parameters are available freely. You have to only register and get the things. So thank you very much for providing this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jaina. And very important thing that you brought about evidence-based guidance on future interventions. That is the need of the day, as also training of media personnels to understand the forecast and thereafter disseminate it. It is a very practical issue, because understanding a weather forecast in itself is quite difficult. And if they disseminate in a wrong way, it might create panic. It might lead to rumor mongering. So the media persons need to be trained well, that they convey the right amount of message, right type of message at the right time. And also a single web portal to disseminate all the best practices that are there in that particular regard. Now I invite Dr. Surojit Bordolai, who has discussed on national, state and local level frameworks for CDRR&R.
He's from NDM. He's consultant with NCRMP. उसको आपसे मांगा था ना एक्चुअली. हाँ हाँ.
Thank you, Chair, Co-Chair. Thank you all scientists, delegates, and the participants. The group presentation done in our group was very interesting. Some of the very good things came up, cutting across different issues. It's not possible to go each and every point with explanations. I try my level best, as much as possible I give the explanation. First and foremost, the most important things come up with the involvement of media in the whole process, dissemination process, where it is claimed that ham radio, community radio plays an important role, and it should be highlighted. And during a time of disaster, the first thing that going to collapse is the communication system, and we already know everything. So ham radio and community radio will be very important role. Another point also came up, the mitigation measures in the coastal DRR, inclusive community-based DRR program should be carried out. Climate change also plays an important role in the whole DRR concept, and which one important point came up in that community food security. A very important points came up because recently also I just came from West Bengal where Cyclone Fani and these things came up, and I talked with the persons who were in that camps, multiple shelter camps. I asked them what any kind of food items given to the children. There is no any items are given for the children or infants. So that also be come into being. So it will be good point came up. Residence buildings should be incorporated in the PRI. PRI plays an important role because it is the system where all the plannings have been done, and particularly the NCRMP is concerned, and NSRMP also. PRI will play an important role in carrying out the all kind of activities. Involvement of the marginalized populations or the vulnerable populations. We only talking about the women. It should not be like that. We should include others also. Recently, when I came back from the West Bengal, nowadays LGBT also be part and parcel of the marginal population. It should not be kept aside. Number one, children, old age people, they cannot able to carry, they cannot able to come to the center because they left out always. And they are the last persons who is a person going to be rescued. So this should be addressed, not only women is concerned. School curriculum in coastal belt, particularly disaster is concerned with, because in the coastal belt, the disaster is a little bit different with the other areas. So like a tsunami or the cyclone, all those things are affected. So their approach will be different in comparison with the earthquake and the flood is concerned. Another point came out, the map availability from INCOS for low-lying areas is already there. It's already in the public domain. You can download it. And last point is that industrial hub along the coastal belt should be addressed, because many industrial belts have their industrial belt along the coastal where chemical disaster may be a major issue. With that note, I just sum up my things. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Surojit. It was the issue of resilience of communication system has been brought out, and it has been amply proved that the first thing that goes down is the communication, and that is the most required thing at that point of time. And inclusive DRR, which includes everything from gender, aged, animals, children, disability inclusive, all of them need to be taken care of, and plans should be there for them. Role of PRI. PRI are the agency through which we are finally able to reach the last man or able to enforce any sort of policies being laid out. And hence their role should never be diminished. In fact, they should be propagated and encouraged more and more to get into the act. So with this, I will request if anyone has got anything to add only on frameworks and strategies for coastal DRR&R, you can do so. We'll take 2-3 such suggestions.
Anyone from the delegates audience would like to add any points? Kindly raise your hand. So whatever has been spoken as outcome of the roundtable discussions.
हिंदी में
Last session भी रहेगा.
नहीं, ये कहा जा रहा है मंच से कि आपको जो भी कुछ कहना है, जो बातें अभी कही गई हैं, उसके अलावा भी और कुछ बातें हैं जो रह गई हैं या अपनी बात कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, ऑडियंस में कोई भी अपनी बात यहाँ रख सकता है। जैसे आपकी बात मैंने रखी थी कि कम्युनिटी रेडियो का महत्व बहुत ज़्यादा है और उसको इसमें इस्तेमाल में और उपयोग में लाना है। जी बताएं।
नमस्कार, मेरा सुझाव यह है कि हमारे यहाँ के वैज्ञानिक, मौसम वैज्ञानिक सभी लोग अति जानकार और अति विशिष्ट होते हैं और विद्वान होते हैं, लेकिन जिस क्षेत्र में जो लोग रहते हैं वहाँ के लोग भी काफ़ी अनुभवी होते हैं, उन्हें मौसम संबंधी बहुत सारी जानकारियाँ होती है। तो मेरा सुझाव है कि डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में लोकल लोगों को, स्थानीय लोगों को प्रशय दिया जाए और उनके अनुभव को भी विज्ञान के कसौटी पर कसा जाए ताकि कम से कम नुकसान हो सके। धन्यवाद।
Okay. There is a lot of multi-story buildings are coming up in the coastal zones and this thing. So we know that during the cyclone, the wind speed is 200 kilometers per hour, and then lot of damage would be there. So there is some authority in government of India or any state government agency is continuously monitor while construction when construction is going on, whether it is following the norms or bylaws as per the BIS code or this thing. Some mechanism should be there so that the user, whoever purchasing the flats in the coastal zones and this thing, or we can go for this builder flat like that. Some authority has to enforce the laws, whether properly followed or not while the construction.
मैं रिस्पॉन्ड करूं?
ले लिया
छोड़ दीजिए। जी जी आप बताएं।
Thank you, sir, for excellent presentations. Just one point, I thought that there was a lot of emphasis on collection of scientific knowledge related to coastal disasters and its impact. It would be very good if we can also understand better what are the community, social, cultural practices around which can also contribute in a positive way and a negative way. And we understand that Tamil Nadu will be very different from Andhra Pradesh will be very different from Gujarat. So somewhere the way we are building a system of scientific knowledge with GIS, a system for community practices is what I would recommend. Thank you.
Chair को बता दें. So I'll request the honorable chair to.
Okay, if I have few sort of additional observations before I really conclude. Now, in all these three presentations, what came out in a common manner was about involvement of the community. In fact, in the field of disaster management, we always say that community is the first responder. So when community is the first responder, involving the community actually for taking mitigating measures and for taking resilience measures becomes really very, very important. And it is only when they are involved, community is involved, in fact, real intended sort of impact or intended objective can be attained. So in this context, when we talk about community-based disaster risk reduction initiatives, so we have to see, since community is the first responder, so CBDRR initiatives have to be really formulated. And how do you formulate the CBDRR initiatives or strategy? That is only by having a disaster management plan at the local level, actually, at the community level. So, in fact, in the presentation dealing with the governance and administration, it was brought out that yes, how we have been planning at the national level, state level, and disaster and the district level. So it's very important actually that planning gets down actually to the grassroots level, that is at the community level. And if there is anyone present here from Kerala, then maybe can supplement. Aap Bihar se nahi, main Kerala se. Anyone from Kerala? Okay. So then, what has Kerala done actually recently in the aftermath of Kerala floods, that is 2018? Now, the state government, the local authorities have got down actually to the village level. And I think, by way of a sample, by way of a sort of model, you are developing, I think, model village disaster management plan, probably in Wayanad or in LAP. Can you just supplement?
If even in Kerala as well as in Tamil Nadu, we are actually developing a village
Yes.
disaster risk management plan.
Yes.
What we are doing is in villages, we are going down to the coastal villages and finding out a group of people, like first responders, we are calling them. And these first responders will include all the kinds of people from the same community who will be, working as nurses, who will be teachers from those areas, who are including some students of those areas, and even from animal husbandry department, agriculture department, all the departments together. So we are basically developing the first responders at the village level and equipping them.
Volunteers,
And
you mean volunteers?
Yeah, volunteers. They are called as first responders, and equipping them and giving them training on how to respond when anything is coming, whom they should inform if anything is happening. And basically, we are imbibing information to them and developing them structurally and trying to develop, basically form the plan from the village level and take it up to the district level. And then take it up to the state level and formulate a plan as such altogether.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. In fact,
Sir, if I may add.
okay, you have some question. I thought.
No, sir, no question. I want to share what Kerala, I was in Kerala for 8 months after floods. And thank you so much for bringing it up. It's one of the best examples I have seen. Sir, they have introduced a government order for all local self-governments to plan where DRR, climate change adaptation, and biodiversity has been brought together for Gram Panchayat development plan. So all local self-government now has to do their plans and look at how they will be going through these three things together in an integrated way. So I just wanted to bring to your side.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would only supplement your answer by sort of by pointing out that this LSG department, this LSG acronym, in fact, has come from Kerala, local self-government, because after this 73rd Constitutional Amendment, 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment in 1992. Now, these are actually, in Kerala, these local self-governments are functioning as an independent, sort of authority and independent authority with, financial and administrative autonomy actually. So much so that all the sectoral plans, the Gram Panchayat, the Gram Panchayat and, other higher units are vested with the responsibility of implementation. So, and coming to this disaster risk reduction, disaster management, now we have started talking about actually mainstreaming of the development plans which are being implemented at the level of Gram Panchayat with the disaster risk reduction strategy or implementation. So that is, in fact, it is good that, at the end of the day, we are talking about the community-based DRR strategy. So, nothing more I have to add. In fact, I would conclude by thanking the panel speakers, for bringing out, very much relevant dimensions of the disaster management, and which encompasses not only the response, but the entire cycle actually, from the preparedness, mitigation, investment, and all that. And I would end by observing that it all boils down to actually how much investment we are making for resilience. Only when we make investments, only when the state government, the national government, and the local governments start making investment in the making investment for making resilience-related interventions, then our community or will become really disaster resilient. And I would also like to observe in this context that the 15th Finance Commission recommendations, in fact, have supported, setting up a mitigation fund, and from taking a certain portion out from the National Disaster Risk Mitigation Fund, National Disaster Management Fund, and also from the State Disaster Management Fund. In fact, this change in nomenclature also, because earlier we had this SDRF and
SDRF only.
SDRF and DRF only. Now the SDRF has been rechristened as SDMF. SDRF has been rechristened as State Disaster Management Fund, and NDRF has been rechristened as the National Disaster National Disaster Management Fund. Okay, 20% of this fund, NDF, NDMF, and SDMF, will be used for carrying out, mitigation activity. We essentially brought down to actually taking specific resilience measures. Of course, not everything will be tackled through this one. And not everything can be, not every requirement can be met from this fund. So it is important that all the stakeholders and all the governments at every level, in fact, we pool our resources together and take and invest actually for resilience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Now I have the opportunity to felicitate the Chair, Co-Chair, and the speakers of this session. May I request my colleagues to kindly help me with the plant pots. I will request ED NIDM to kindly felicitate Dr. Pradeep Kumar ji, Special Secretary and Project Director NCRMP and DMA with a plant pot. Please clap for this successful session. I request to Dr. Basant Kumar Jaina ji from National Institute of Ocean Technology and IoT has traveled the long distance to come over, to Shri Sujit Bordoli from NDMA, who is working with NCRMP as a consultant, and Professor Santosh Kumar ji, one of our senior colleagues. Sir, thank you very much. I will request a group photograph for the session before closing this session.